Welcome to Chapter 2, homework questions 70 to 74. Question 70. Sometimes the quickest and easiest 2 points to use to graph a line that is not in slope-intercept form are the x and the y-intercepts. Find the x and the y-intercepts for the 2 lines below and then use them to graph each line. Write the coordinates of the x and y-intercepts on your graph. So I only have one coordinate plane here, so we're going to go ahead and do both of them. I'll do them in different colors. So on part A, we have x minus 2y equals 4. And so if I want to find the x-intercept, then we know that the y value is 0. And if I want to find the y-intercept, then we know that the x value is 0. And so what we can do is we can plug in the values of 0, and they usually work out pretty nice because when you plug in 0, either adding or multiplying, not much happens. So we have x minus 2 times 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. So all we're left with is x equals 4. So we were able to quickly find the x-intercept. And that's a point on the graph. Same thing for the y-intercept. When I plug 0 in for x, that's 0 minus 2y equals 4. And then I can divide by negative 2 and get y equals negative 2. So once again, pretty quickly I'm able to find the y-intercept. And 2 points determine the line, so I can graph the x-intercept at 4, 0, and the y-intercept at negative 2, 0. And using a straight edge, sorry about that, using a straight edge, you should be able to graph a nice line between those 2 points. Equation B, 3x plus 6y equals 24. Once again, to find the x-intercept, we're looking for x when y is 0. So 3x plus 6 times 0 equals 24, which would be 3x equals 24. Divide by 3, and x is equal to 8. So that represents the x-intercept. So that'll be over here at 8, 0. And then to find the y-intercept, we are looking for y when x is 0. So 3 times 0 plus 6y equals 24. So 3 times 0 cancels the 3, or 0 plus 6y divided by 6, and y is equal to 4. So the y-intercept is at 0, 4. And once again, 2 points determine a line, so make sure you use a straight edge since we don't have a bunch of points. When we use slope-intercept form, a lot of times we have, more than 2 points. So with this method, you only have 2, so make sure you use a straight edge to graph those lines. Once again, not the best line of mine, but there it is, and there are the points. Also, since we have 2 lines, we should identify, even though I have them in color, which line represents which equation. Question 71, find the slope of the line passing through each pair of points below. So on part A, finding the slope, we're looking for delta y over delta x. Once again, remember delta y is the change or the difference in your y values. So your y values are your second coordinates of the ordered pair. 2 minus negative 1, and then your x is 1 minus 4. So on this one we get 3 over negative 3, and make sure you simplify that. So your slope is negative 1. For those 2 points for B, we have 3 minus 4 over 7 minus 5. And this is negative 1 over 2. For that one. On C, and you'll notice I'm always taking the first point minus the second point. It doesn't matter the order that you do them in. So on C, I'll just go the other way so you can see. So instead of taking 8 minus 5, I'll do it the other way. 5 minus 8. Just make sure then I go negative 8 minus negative 6. And so we get negative 3 over negative 2, and then that simplifies to positive 3 halves. So your slope is 3 halves. And if you would have done it the other way, you would have got a positive 3 over a positive 2. So once again, the order doesn't matter. On D, we'll do 68 minus 67. So I'm taking the second point minus the first point. 50 minus 55. So that's 1 over negative 5. So our slope is negative 1/5. On E, Aziza got 1 for the slope of the line through the points 1, 2, and 4, negative 1. Explain to her the mistake she made and how to find the slope correctly. So let's go ahead and find the slope and see maybe if we can figure out what she did. So we have 2 minus negative 1, and then 1 minus 4. So we get a positive 3 over a negative 3, which will equal negative 1. So the only thing that happened is that the sign is different, and so that could have happened a lot of different ways. But if we plot these 2 points, what we will notice is that the line is decreasing, where her line would have been increasing with a positive 1. So the line is decreasing because of the negative slope instead of what Aziza had, which was a positive slope. Question 72. Evaluate the following expressions. With these, we could use our calculators to help simplify that. For the video, though, I'm just going to go ahead and do everything kind of longhand here. 8 2/5, I would rewrite that as an improper fraction of 42 over 5. Since it is division, we can multiply by the reciprocal, and the reciprocal for this would be 13/4 as an improper fraction, so it would be 4 over 13. If there's anything in common that I could cancel, I would go ahead and cancel that. And it doesn't appear there is, so I'm just going to go ahead and multiply straight across. And so I get 168 over 65. And if I couldn't cancel anything, then that should be the reduced form of that. Could change it into a mixed number, but I think that's fine the way it is. On part B, once again, we want to change them to improper since we are multiplying. 5 times 2 plus 1 is 11/2 times, it's like 27/4, so it is a negative 27. Once again, it appears that there are no common factors to cancel, so we're just going to multiply straight across. And so we'll get negative 297 over 8. If you do change it to a mixed number, it'll be negative 37 and 1/8. So either one would be good. On part C, we have subtraction. So we have negative 3 and 5/8. And we could change these to improper again. I'm just going to find the common denominator of the fractions that we have. And so that would be negative 1, and then 1/2 you could rewrite as 4/8. And then you could just subtract accordingly. So you have negative 3 minus 1, which would give us negative 4. I guess the only issue here is I have negative 5 minus 4, which would be negative 9/8. So if we simplify that, that'll be negative 5 and 1/8. So maybe we could have changed it to an improper, but either way is going to work. And then the last one, D, negative 7 plus 2/3. This one you might be able to go ahead and do in your head since you have negative 7 and you're just adding a 2/3 to it. If you do want to change it to a common denominator, we could rewrite it as negative 21 over 3 plus 2/3, which would be negative 19/3. If you did it in your head, you probably subtracted 2/3 from the 7 there and got negative 6 and 1/3. As I said, either one of these is an acceptable answer. Question 73. Copy and complete the table below. Write the corresponding equation. You could look at the table and start trying to figure out how the x values are increasing, and then also how the y values are increasing, or in this case decreasing, and then complete the table that way. Another way that you could possibly do it is to find the slope since you are given 2 values here. Now the input's on the top, so we might want to rewrite these ordered pairs as 2, negative 7 and 4, negative 17, just so we maybe don't make the mistake of making sure we put the y's on top and not the x's. So this would be negative 17 minus negative 7, and then 4 minus 2. So that would be negative 10 over 2 or negative 5. So what that means is for every x value that it's increasing, it's decreasing the y by negative 5. Because remember, this is negative 5 over 1, and that's delta y over delta x. So if we're going up by 2, which is what happens right here, let me erase some of this right here. So if this is going up by 2 and this is going up by 2 and this went down by 10, then this would also go down by 10 because for every 1 it goes down by 5. So that means this would be negative 27. That goes up by 1, so you're only going to go down by 5 on this one. And then it looks like it goes down by 5 again, so that means your x has to go up by 1. And now we're going the x up by 2, so your y is going to go by 10. You could also plug the information into the equation if you needed to. Now we have the slope to be able to write the equation. So m is equal to negative 5. And then how do we find the y-intercept? Well, we could just go backwards because we're looking for y when x is 0. So we could go back this way to x value of 0. And then that means we would have to go back 10 for the y value because we're going back this way. So we'd have to add 10. And then that gives us the y-intercept to be at 0, 3. So therefore, y is equal to negative 5x plus 3. So that's one way to do it. Once again, we know that math, there's multiple ways to find information and to solve problems. So if you didn't do it that way, that's fine. Just make sure your equation matches up y equals negative 5x plus 3. Question 74. Match a graph. Match the following graphs with their equations. Pay special attention to the scaling of the set of axes. Explain how you found each match. So if you notice, the first thing you might recognize is that every single one of your equation has a y-intercept of 0, 4. So we know for each one of these, the graph should be going through 0, 4. And you can see that. So you have here, this one looks like it's going through 2, but remember, they said pay attention to the axes. And so you can see that on this, every 3 represents 6, so that means it's going up by 2's on the y-axis, but on the x-axis, it's going by 3. So pay attention to that. And same thing on number 3, it actually is going up by 4's on the y-axis. And then on this one, it's going up by 2. So they look at like they're in different places because of how that's being scaled, which is important to recognize. So then we have a slope of 1/4, 1/2, 2, and then negative 2/3. Now D might be the easiest to pick out because it has a slope of negative 2, negative 2/3. So which is the only graph that is going down? And that would be graph number 2. So D matches up with graph number 2, and it has a negative slope. So you can see it goes down 2 over 3. Don't pay attention to the squares, pay attention to the scaling. All right, next, let's go back to the beginning, 1/4. Which graph has a slope of 1/4 where you're going up 1 unit and over 4? That doesn't appear to be graph 1. This graph is going up 4 and then over 8. Up 4 and then over 8. So what would be up 4 and over 8? That would be 1/2. So that looks like this is graph number 3, and this matches up with B. This one over here has a slope of, this one's going up, and this one goes up by 2, that's the scaling there, and then over 8. So which one goes up 2 and over 8, which is 1/4? That is A. So this matches up with A, and this is graph number 4, which leaves us with number 1 and C, but let's double check. So we might have to pick this point here. So it looks like it's going up 2 units and over 1. Now that one's scaled 1 by 1, so that is correct there. So C would be graph number 1.